and we're excited to have our guest here. Dad, bring in our new guest.
Well, certainly Houston Nutt has been a friend a long time. His brothers have been friends as well because they're basketball guys, and they beat my family a bunch of times. So anyway, Houston has been the head coach at Murray State and Boise State, University of Arkansas. Did a great job there at Ole Miss. 60% winning percentage coaching, and now doing some work for CBS Sports and as a football studio analyst. And I think one of the great minds in college football, and I hope a guy that one of these days will see fit to get back in. Hey, Houston, how you doing?
Hey, Coach. I'm doing good. Appreciate y'all having me.
Well, we appreciate you being on. Naturally, I guess a little bit of our talk, or most of our talk, will maybe a little bit about college football, but about the Ole Miss-Alabama game. Ole Miss seems to have a lot of guys who can't behave themselves off the field, so I don't know exactly how many people they're going to bring, to Bryant Denny on Saturday night. But this kind of evaluate this Ole Miss football team as best you can see.
It's hard to evaluate. They haven't really played anyone yet, but the thing that you do know is they got some explosive guys. Laquan Treadwell, the young man who got hurt last year, he's a true difference maker. Guy has length, and he can go get the football, and he can make things happen. Evan Ingram, Cody Core, they've got some receivers. And then Chad Kelly looks like that he's doing a good job. Of course, he has a lot of good DNA. That's Jim Kelly's nephew.
Yeah.
And he's got a strong arm. What's going to be interesting now is they're going to see a real defense. And I'm anxious to see how this 73 points a game, how this thing's going to turn out Saturday. And then on defensive side of the ball, they've got some guys that can run around. They're quick. Tony Connor, the young man there from South Panola, Mississippi, excellent player. You got guys, of course, like Robert Kimdishi, a big guy that's disruptive. And so they've got some athletes. I signed a kid named C.J. Johnson, and they got a 6-year for him. He's from Philadelphia, Mississippi, and he's probably one of their leaders. So you got some athletes on the field. The thing they're going to have to be able to do, will they be able to stop big Derrick Henry coming downhill?
Well, this football team, as you said, is 70 points is a lot against anybody. They spread a lot, and they play as fast as they possibly can. And for whatever reason, that hasn't been the best thing for Alabama to defend, has it?
That's right, Coach. You make a good point. One thing that's tough is when you get teams. When Auburn had Nick Marshall, a guy that ran 4.3, was almost like a 12th guy, and this hurry, high octane up tempo, which really doesn't allow much substitution. It keeps some defense. It keeps them in a bind, and they spread the field from sideline to sideline, about 53 yards across the field, and make you tackle in space. And the thing that's hurt, if Ole Miss had a running game, a bigger back to go with Jalen Walton. This Jalen Walton kid we signed from Memphis is a speedster. I mean, this guy can fly, but he's not very big, Coach.
Yeah.
And so the up tempo has given Nick some problems. And it's kind of changed everybody's recruiting a little bit. We got to get, everybody's kind of gotten more of those hybrid guys that you don't have to substitute, that can play outside, not only rush but also cover.
Coach Nutt, hey, it's Barry. I wanted to ask you, as a head football coach, bringing a team in to play at Alabama in Bryant-Denny Stadium, what do you tell your players? Do you talk about the tradition of Alabama and the crowd, or do you just kind of push that to the side and just talk to your guys about getting your guys ready? How do you handle that with your team?
Yeah, from the very first time going into Alabama, the one thing Mal Moore did such a great job of, and I had the privilege that he recruited me, and so I have a lot of respect for what Mal has done. And Mal was the assistant coach for Bear Bryant. He's built that thing, and that stadium got bigger and better each time. So I think it was sometime in there about that second, third year, kind of prepared the guys. Hey, look, you're going into a real hostile environment, and one thing about Alabama is the people will show up. But the good news is, I don't care if there's 100,000 in that stadium, the good news is they can only put 11 out there. And so I thought it was really important. Hey, look, they're going to play Sweet Home Alabama, and they're going to be rocking the pom-poms, but there's not a greater atmosphere in the world. And I love coming down there. I love coming down in that environment. and it's the first 5 minutes. And I think Wimp also, I'm just talking to, I had the privilege to talk to Henry Iva a lot of times in Stillwater, and he'd always tell me, he'd come in my office sometimes and say, Coach, have your boys ready those first 5 minutes. And so I wanted to let that emotion, and I just didn't want to give up anything on a kickoff or the crowd. You didn't want those guys smelling blood early. And so you handled it. You tried to handle that thing, the noise and all that thing. Look, buckle up both chin straps. They got 11 guys out there. We're going to play our game. We're going to take care of the most important thing we got, and that's the ball. And let them get real hyped up. But the bottom line is, if you hit one of them and play your game and get through this first 5 minutes, if we always felt like if we could somehow get to the fourth quarter, we got a chance.
I want to talk about the East and the West in a minute, but before I forget, I forget things real easy, Houston.
I don't believe that, Coach.
Before I forget it, I know that you worked for Lou Holtz. I know that was a lot of fun.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But I tell you what, the one thing about Lou Holtz, Coach, he kept you accountable. Where when I was a grad assistant for him in 1983, after
Bryant.
I had 1 year with Coach Holtz, I felt like I could coach for anybody in the country.
Well, Barry, my son, was over in South Carolina when Lou was over there, and he's a little bit like Coach Bryant and Coach Saban is. You better find out where they are before you go and decide where you are.
That's a real good point.
They used to see if Coach, but Dude Hennessy used to see if Coach Bryant was playing golf and where he was playing. If Coach Bryant had he may have a 5 o'clock in the morning staff meeting, but he wouldn't tell you. It'd be up to you to find out if he's having one. And it's a different cat that you're working for. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Hey, Houston, I got people blowing my phone up. There must be some story here. I don't know if you'll remember it, but something about some recruiting trip you took to Tuscaloosa. Yeah. Can you share that with us?
You bet. Well, there's two stories. I want to start with, my father's from Fordyce, Arkansas. So my uncles and my grandfather actually rode in the wagon with Coach Bryant. People don't know what poor was. And one of my visits, I admired Coach Bryant so much. But before I came on the visit, he called. Kilgore called and said, hey, we're running a little bit late. We're down here in Fordyce, Arkansas, Moore Bottom. We're looking around some of the town and talking to some of our friends. So we're running a little late. So what my brothers do, Coach Wimp, we go out in the backyard on an 8-foot goal. We start playing 2-on-2 and playing basketball. And this ball, it's a 6-foot fence, not very big in the backyard. That ball bounces over the fence, and guys, there he is. Houndstooth hat and the whole bit. And I'm looking at him, and I said, Coach Bryant, I didn't know you was there. My mom and dad were inside ready for the home visit. Come on in. He said, finish the game. I said, well, Coach, you really don't want to watch us. My brothers, we just been, we're playing the best out of 7. Coach, we're about done. I said, finish the game. And he sat there and watched us and watched in. Of course, my mom falls in love with him, loves him. But anyway, I go that weekend to Alabama on the official visit. And that was when they had early signing day, so I was really the only one on campus. And one of the things we did Saturday afternoon, we went over to Coach Bryant's house. And Mary Harmon was there, Mal Moore, Bear Bryant. We're sitting in there. We're watching a basketball game, and Mary Harmon's the sweet and has something. We're eating and watching the game. Well, it's 1:37 left. I remember it like yesterday. And Alabama Crimson Tide's down 7 points. And Bear Bryant stands up in the living room. He's sitting in his chair, stands up in the living room, and Mary Harmon says, you're not going to do that in front of company, are you, Bear? And I don't know what's going on. And so Mary Harmon coaches me up and says, Houston, you trade seats with Bear. I'm going to trade seats with Mal Moore. Yeah. And lo and behold, this magical thing, within 30 seconds, I look up, Alabama's ahead by 1, and I'm just shaking my head. I said, this man here is a winner.
Yeah, he told me that. She told me that one time, yeah. That's so I know that I know Arkansas ties that you've had, and Coach Bryant, all the Arkansas ties that he had. We could keep you on for about 3 sessions. Tell me this before we let you go. We've got a little bit more time. It looks to me like that the East has sort of come down to Georgia and Missouri. I don't know if anybody else. Missouri's got the best schedule, and it looks like, of course, the West has opened up with Alabama and LSU and Ole Miss and Auburn, I guess. But since Tennessee, I don't know that Tennessee losing to Oklahoma doesn't mean anything, but I would think that Georgia and Missouri might be the two best. Am I wrong on that?
I think you're right with Georgia. I'm a little concerned with Missouri. They don't have the same rush guys they've had the last 2 years. They've had some guys coming off that edge, Coach, Marcus Gold and some of these guys. Now, they do have Kentrell brothers, and so I'm anxious to see, are they going to be able to put enough defense up to get this thing really going? But I tell you, Gary Pinkel, guys, is one of the finest coaches. He's underrated. He doesn't get much. He doesn't get much talk. But I'm going to tell you, to go to Atlanta, it's really hard. It's really hard. Arkansas is finding that out. Yeah. When you go to Atlanta, you've done something, and nobody's picked him. He's done it twice. But I'm with you. I think Georgia's the team. I really love Georgia, especially Nick Chubb's and Stable's running backs. If they keep the quarterback consistent, if he can just keep making plays and don't have to be Superman, but just throw it to his guys ever so often, they got a tremendous running game. Can't wait to see when Alabama goes to Athens. That'll be a heck of a football game. But I think Georgia in the East, Tennessee has really improved. They should have won the other night.
Yep,
that would have been a big win. But Tennessee has improved, so that's going to be a hard out too.
Yeah. West, I guess it's just up. You was talking about the West because we don't really know. I guess Alabama is probably the favorite, but Ole Miss beats Alabama on Saturday. That thing will flip flop.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Alabama looks like right now looks very good. I'm anxious to see the game Saturday. We'll find out a lot about Ole Miss and this high-powered offense when they go into a hostile stadium. But Alabama looks good, and I'm curious to see how Auburn does. The quarterback's not off to a very good start, but they've got some players, so we'll see what happens.
I think the quarterback for Auburn, I think he'll be happy to go on the road. I think he plays lights out this weekend just to kind of get away from all the noise. Right. We know he's got the ability. That LSU staff is scared to death of him.
There's no doubt about it. We've seen glimpses last year when he was out there. He was really very, very efficient, has a strong arm. You got a guy like Big Duke Williams out on the outside. And if they can run the ball like they have in the last 2 years, get that running game going, I think they really miss Artis Payne and some of those guys. But Peyton Barber stepped up, and they need to continue with Rock Thomas as well. If they can get that going, take the pressure off of Jeremy Johnson, I think you're exactly right. We've seen him make throws before.
Well, before we let you go, the scholarship limitations, I think it happened in basketball more quickly than it did in football. But the scholarship limitations and the fact that we can't get everybody in school that we want to get in now, they have to sit out junior college or they transfer to another school. I think it's really made a lot of parity in college football.
Oh, Coach, you're so right. To me, that's changed the whole landscape. When you can just sign those 25, and the math doesn't add up when you have 85 on scholarship, but yet you keep them 4 years. When you sign 25 a year, that math doesn't quite add up. So you're right. It's made things much more even. That's why when Jacksonville State comes in and Troy and some of these teams, and they get a few transfers from Alabama or Auburn, you better watch out. You just can't throw your suits out there and say, hey, we're going to win today. You better get ready because it goes back to what you're saying. There's a lot of parity out there.
When I left Alabama, of course, a long time ago, Coach Bryant had 55 freshmen.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, now it's 24. When he first went there in 57, it was unlimited, of course.
That's right.
Unlimited. And the number of players he had on the team was unlimited. So now down to 85 was 100 and something. But we appreciate you being on. Let me say this before you leave. You did the absolute best job of a Coach Bryant impersonation that I have ever heard.
Hey, Houston, I got to ask you one question.
You didn't say much.
I got to ask you one before we let him go. I got to clear one thing up.
But that was a great Coach Bryant impersonation.
Okay,
now,
thank you, Coach.
My buddy Philip Pearson says y'all used to have some noon basketball games over there at Murray State. He said, I got two older brothers too, just like I know you got brothers. We used to go at it. But he said, first of all, you can ball, but second of all, you would cheat. You would cheat your mother to win a game. Is that true?
I don't cheat. The only thing where Philip got mad at me was if I lost that last game at a best of three, I'd make it go best of seven. He said, now the series is over. I said, no, it's not over. You got to finish best of seven. The NBA goes best of seven. But, no, you can't really cheat in basketball. Sometimes he didn't keep the score right.
That's right. I knew he had it wrong.
We're going to replay this interview just because of what you said, where your Coach Bryant imitation. That's great. Thanks, Houston. We appreciate it.
You bet, guys.
All right,
you.
thank you.
care.
That was good.